My uncle's farm in upstate New York was beautiful in the way old, isolated places are. 200 years of history soaked into every weathered board, surrounded by dense forests that seemed to swallow sound. My mother, sibling, and I spent our summers there, and I learned early on that the woods had rules. Stay on the trails. Never go out alone after dark. And if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. That morning, I broke one of those rules. There was a 7-mile trail we'd never explored. It cut deep into the oldest part of the forest, where the trees grew so thick that even at noon, the light turned gray and sickly. I'd asked my uncle about it once, and he'd just said, "That one goes pretty far out. Be careful if you decide to take it." Something in the way he said it made my skin prickle, but I was young and stupid and convinced nothing bad could happen in daylight. I grabbed Gigi, my 6-pound toy poodle, and headed out just after breakfast. The first few miles were pleasant enough. Birds singing, sunlight filtering through the leaves, normal forest sounds. But the deeper we went, the quieter it became. By the time we reached the end of the trail, I realized I hadn't heard a bird in over an hour. The silence was absolute. Suffocating. I stood there for a moment, suddenly very aware of how alone we were. How far from the farm. 7 miles of dense forests between me and safety. The hair on the back of my neck stood up for no reason I could name. "Okay, Gigi," I said, my voice too loud in the stillness. "Time to go." I turned to head back, and that's when I noticed she wasn't beside me. My stomach dropped. Gigi, she was about 20 feet into the trees, completely motionless, staring at something I couldn't see. Her entire body was rigid, locked in a stance I'd never seen before. Not playful, not curious. Afraid, but she wasn't running. She was standing her ground in front of a massive bush that was shaking violently, branches whipping back and forth like something was thrashing inside it. And the sound coming from that bush wasn't right. Too heavy, too deliberate. "Gigi, come here," I called, trying to keep my voice steady. She didn't move. Didn't even acknowledge me. She just stood there, a tiny white shape against the dark forest, growling low in her throat. I'd never heard her make that sound before. It was primal. Terrified. Every instinct I had screamed at me to run, to leave her and get out of there, but I couldn't. She was my dog. I wasn't going to abandon her to whatever was in that bush. I forced my legs to move, stepping off the trail into the forest. The temperature dropped immediately, like I'd walked into a freezer. The air felt wrong, thick and heavy, pressing against my skin. "Gigi, we're leaving." Now, I reached down and scooped her up, and the moment I did, she started whimpering. Not her usual dramatic whining. This was different. Desperate. Panicked. I turned back toward the trail, and that's when the bush stopped shaking. The silence that followed was worse than any sound. It was the silence of something waiting. Watching. I took one step toward the trail. The bush erupted. Something massive stood up behind it, rising and rising until it towered over me. In the shadows of the forest, I couldn't make out details, just size, just the shape of something that should not have been there. Something too big, too dark, and then it looked at me. I don't remember making the decision to run. One second I was frozen, staring at this thing, and the next I was sprinting down the trail, Gigi screaming in my arms, my lungs burning, branches tearing at my clothes and skin. I could hear it behind me, not chasing, exactly. Following. Heavy footsteps that seemed to stay at exactly the same distance no matter how fast I ran, like it was pacing me, like it wanted me to know it could catch me whenever it decided to. The sound of those footsteps was wrong. Too rhythmic, too intelligent. This wasn't an animal. Hunting it was something else entirely. I pushed harder, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my vision tunneling. I could see the trail ahead, could see where it curved around a massive fallen tree, and if I could just make it around that bend. My foot caught on an exposed route. I went down hard, Gigi flying from my arms as I slammed into the dirt. Pain exploded through my knee. My palms scraped raw against rock and earth. For a horrible second, I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Then I heard it. The footsteps had stopped. Primera rolled over, scrambling backward on my hands, and saw it standing at the edge of the trail. Closer now. So much closer than it had been before. The shadows seemed to cling to it, making it hard to see clearly, but I could make out its shape. Massive. Wrong. Arms too long, hanging down past where they should end. And it was looking at me. Not at the trees. Not past me. Directly. At me. It took a step forward. Then, another. Its movements were slow, deliberate, like it knew I had nowhere to go. Like it was savoring this moment. I could hear its breathing now, wet, rattling. The sound of something that shouldn't be breathing at all. I tried to crawl backward, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Terror had locked my muscles. All I could do was watch as it reached toward me with those two long arms. Fingers or whatever they were extending. That's when Gigi launched herself between us. 6 pounds of pure fury, teeth bared, snarling with a ferocity I didn't know she had. She positioned herself directly in front of me, her tiny body rigid, every hair standing on end, and she snapped at the thing's reaching hand. The creature recoiled, actually pulled back, jerking its arm away from her, like she'd burned it. It made a sound low, confused, almost offended, like it couldn't comprehend what had just happened. Gigi didn't back down. She stood her ground, snarling, snapping again at the air, daring it to come closer. And for a moment, the thing just stared at her, at this impossibly small dog defending her human with everything she had. Then it took a step back. And another. It retreated into the shadows of the forest, melting back into the darkness between the trees. But I could still feel its eyes on us. Still hear that wet, rattling breath somewhere just out of sight. Gigi didn't stop growling until I managed to get to my feet, scooping her up with shaking hands. She was trembling now, too, the adrenaline starting to fade, but she kept her eyes locked on the spot where the thing had disappeared. "Good girl," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Good girl, Gigi." I got up and walked the rest of the way back to the farm. I didn't run. Some part of me knew that running would trigger it again, would bring it back, so I walked. My heart pounding so hard I thought it would break my ribs, Gigi shaking against my chest. When I finally saw the farmhouse, I started crying. I didn't even realize I'd been holding my breath. My mother met me at the door, took one look at my face, at the scratches on my arms, at Gigi trembling in my grip, and went pale. "What happened?" "Something's out there," I whispered. "On the 7-mile trail, something followed us back." She pulled me inside and locked the door. Locked all the doors. She didn't ask questions. She didn't tell me it was just a bear. Just my imagination. She knew these woods better than I did. That night, I heard something moving around the farmhouse. Heavy footsteps circling the property, stopping at each window. She heard it too. She stood at my bedroom door, growling at something I couldn't see. That same terrified, desperate sound from the forest. By morning, it was gone. My uncle came by that afternoon and noticed the deep scratches on the trees near the house. Marks too high for any bear. He didn't say anything, just looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "You took the 7-mile trail," he said. It wasn't a question. Primera, not death. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "That trail's been here longer than the farm. Longer than anyone can remember. The locals don't use it anymore. Haven't for years. Why not?" He met my eyes. "Because some things don't like being disturbed, and once they know you've seen them, they don't forget." I never went back on that trail. I never went into those woods again, actually. And sometimes, even now, years later, I'll catch Gigi staring at a dark corner of a room, or out a window at nothing, making that low, frightened growl. And I wonder if she's remembering that day, or if she's seeing something I can't.